Hey everyone, thanks for your support in 2024. We have a lot of cool stuff coming in 2025, and here are some of the things you can look forward to as we move into next year. In the lead up to The Mandalorian and Grogu in 2026, we'll be starting a full series rewatch of both The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett on exploring hyperspace lanes beginning in October. You can also expect a rewatch of Andor, and we will have reviews of every episode of Andor and the rest of the Skeleton Crew as those come out. Josie will be returning as we continue to rank every Star Wars thing released ever. Reviews of every episode of every Marvel Disney Plus show, including Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, The Eyes of Wakanda, Wonder Man, Ironheart, Daredevil Born Again, and Marvel Zombies, the day after each episode releases, will be available on Beware of Spoilers. We'll be having special event podcasts on 30-minute reviews for the Academy Awards, our 2024 year in review in early January, ranking all of Phase 5 of the MCU after Fantastic Four First Steps comes out, and our 10th anniversary special. Once we complete our rankings of all the Pokemon games on the backlog files, we'll be moving on to Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. Over on the YouTube channel, you can join in for playthroughs of Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, Pokemon White, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts Recoded, Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, Sonic Adventure 2, LEGO Racers 2, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, and SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Want to keep on top of all the new things we have coming? Subscribe at mwpnews.com, subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/@mwpnews, or subscribe to Beware of Spoilers, 30-minute reviews, exploring hyperspace lanes, and the backlog files on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thank you for your support. Good morning and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam on this. It's warm. It's like 50 degrees out. It's fucking hot. Like, let's not call it warm. It's hot for end of February. Fucking headache today because of that. And let's talk about yesterday. Yesterday, it hasn't been 2 years to the day since the announcement of the DC Slate. Like, is that where we are? I know it's been 2 years, but I don't remember the exact date that Gunn came out and announced the slate, because I know it was 2023. And he announced the slate and the general plan for Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters of the DC Universe. That's when we got the announcement that they were working on, Superman, Lanterns, Waller, all that stuff. And right now, we're between the first two projects. Right now, we are, we're a few months out from Superman. Superman comes out in July. And then we just saw Creature Commandos. And I think the big thing with this is we haven't had a ton of news, official news, which is weird because I think that, James Gunn is very much a man of the people. He's very active on social media. If something is ridiculously stupid, he's quick to debunk it. It's one of those things where it's and I think that kind of created the general mood of this press conference. I didn't see the press conference. I wasn't invited. But I read Variety's write-up of it, and there was kind of this, we didn't never announce that. And it's okay, but, are you doing it? Because there's been reports about it for months, and it's not like Dumb Fuckistan, or what's it called? Not Dumb Fuckistan, that's the meme about Middle America. It's not like Dumb Fuck over on YouTube, who's hey, well, I heard, because I have an insider at Warner Brothers, or we got this covered. It's hey, I have an insider at Warner Brothers, and I hear they're working on this movie that apparently is coming, and you're oh, okay, we'll just run with that and pretend that that's real. That's not what this was. This is substantiated places that vet, places that, do due diligence in their journalism are saying, hey, we have reports and we're hearing from insiders at the studio that like Variety and Deadline, like actual legitimate news sources, The Hollywood Reporter, like who actually have inside sources or are actually talking to people on the record, and it's like, oh well, we're working on what's it called? We're working on a Sergeant Rock movie or whatever, and it's not just like anonymous leaker on Twitter or guy who pulled it completely out of his ass at online news source. It's like these are actual people, and oh, we didn't talk about that. Like, no, you didn't, but we have substantiated coverage that this is happening, like substantiated reports, and that's the thing. And that's kind of where we are on this, where it's like a lot of this is just kind of confirming where we are on various projects and moving into like what can we expect in the near future. And I'm of two minds on this. Number one, I like that they've kind of set the deadline of in 6 years they want to be doing a big Avenger-style crossover. Okay, great. So that's going to be 6 years. I would assume 6 years from now. So I think we're looking at 2031 for the big Avenger-style crossover. Okay, great. I like that. But the thing with that is, you can't set that end date and say, well, we're going to have this big crossover movie by that date and not have more concrete information about what's going on in some of your movies. So, like, what we have definitively, Superman's in editing. They're editing Superman, and Superman will be coming out on scheduled in mid-July. Great. All good things here. Then we have, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which wasn't even announced in that initial slate. Woman of Tomorrow actually was announced after the fact, alongside Paradise Lost, which was the Wonder Woman, or the origin story for, what's it called? The origin story for, what's it called? The origin story for, there's a word for this. I know what I'm thinking. The origin story for, Themyscira. That was the word I'm looking for. Sorry. And at the end of the day, what that's doing is, like, those were announced after, and I think that, like, Supergirl got fast-tracked. And again, I kind of feel like I'm in this weird place with this, where it's like, okay, so if we're going to fast-track Supergirl, have Craig Gillespie direct, it's going to be this great movie, why is that the second movie out of the gate? Like, why is movie 1 Superman, then movie 2 Supergirl? Like, just do Supergirl, because Superman seems to be a pretty straight adaptation of Superman. Like, and this take on Supergirl is a departure from what we've seen in the past. It's Woman of Tomorrow, which is that comic where she comes to Earth, she's jaded, and she is angry. And that would be a interesting, different approach for what the Kryptonian is in this universe. Like, what the Superman character is, if it's just Supergirl, that's cool. But we're launching with 2 Superman characters or 2 Kryptonian characters, so whatever, it is what it is. Then we get to the next movie that's going to be starting production this year, which is Clayface. Okay, fine. I don't have a problem with that. I think that Clayface is an interesting choice because it's going to introduce you to the world of Gotham in a way that is unique. Like, we're going to get to know the city of Gotham, because that's one of the important things, and we're going to see this coming up with Daredevil. These grounded superheroes, one of the more important things about the grounded superheroes is making the setting a character. We talked about this a lot with Daredevil, how Hell's Kitchen feels like, oh, nice directional jackass. Hell's Kitchen feels like as much of a character as Foggy, or as Matt, or as what's it called, or as Fisk. Like, Hell's Kitchen is as much a character. And to that end, doing this with Clayface as like a horror kind of thing is an interesting choice. And I think it could do a lot to kind of A, establish the character, and B, establish the city, without having to necessarily establish Batman, which is a nice little bonus. And it'll give you time to work on Batman. Now, if that's being shot this July, I think that's got a release date for next October. I think that's what that is. So we that's on track to come out. We also know they have plans to do 2 theatrical live-action movies and 1 theatrical animated movie a year. And there's plans to do 2 live-action and 2 animated shows. They're saying, he said on Max. I don't think he means on Max, because I think the Max branding no longer exists. I think if I remember correctly, we talked about it with the Harry Potter thing, with that lawsuit. But, like, the idea that, like, everything's just going to HBO is a big part of this. So that's, whatever. 2 streaming series, live action, 2 animated streaming series, or 2 series animated, 2 series live action, and then 2 theatrical live action and 1 animated in a year. Okay, fine. That's good. I think that's a solid release cadence. Because the animated movies appear to be skewing younger, because the first animated movie they're working on is Dynamic Duo, which is being written by the writer of Coco, and is explicitly going to be for younger audiences. It's the Robbins movie. So, okay, that all makes sense to me. If you're going to use the animated movies to kind of bring in, younger audiences, that's good. That's a good choice. That Marvel really hasn't done as well. Now, the other thing that I kind of feel weird about with this is, so what is this crossover going to be? Because looking at the other titles that got updates, it's like, okay, so you're doing so apparently they're working on a movie with, I forgot who the writer is, who's writing allegedly a Bane Deathstroke movie. And it's like, oh yeah, he's working on something that's like a Bane Deathstroke movie. And it's like, okay, so there's 2 characters. Swamp Thing is on the back burner, because I guess they want to let James Mangold do what he's going to do with that. And James Mangold is also still tied up with Star Wars, so we don't know what's going on with that. I think the Star Wars was announced first. I don't know what the contractual obligations are, but he's working on that. Lanterns is coming out next year. Late this year, we're getting Peacemaker Season 2. Well, not late. August, we're getting Peacemaker Season 2. So we got some cool things coming there. And then we got Brave and the Bold, where there's a few interesting things about the Brave and the Bold, the Batman Part 2 discussion. The Batman Part 2, the script's not done yet. The treatment done. The script's not done yet. Still working on it. But he's confident about where this movie's going. So if you have the Batman Part 2, and that's being worked on. He also confirmed that Robert Pattinson would not be the Batman for the DCEU. Now, the fact that the DCEU. Now, the fact that Gunn is talking about the Batman Part 2 leads me to think that the Batman Part 2 is going to be one of these movies in this multi-year release cadence. Like, in this multi-release a year cadence, that's the word I meant. So, if that's the case, then we only get one other movie that year. And it should be an early movie, so likely in 2027, I would say probably the most likely candidate, based on what they've talked about, is probably Brave and the Bold. So in 2027, we're getting 2 Batman movies? Okay, sure. Because there's no other movie that they're working on that's far enough along in the cycle that it's like, oh, that's good. So, like, if we're, because they said they have a writer, they didn't announce who the writer is, but they have a writer for Brave and the Bold. Gunn is working with the writer to write the Brave and the Bold, which, in case you forgot, is the Batman movie with, the Batman movie with, it's a Batman who's already been Batman for a while. We're not retreading the origin, and he is going to be, He's going to be, working with Damian Wayne as Robin. And it's like, cool, got it. All of this is awesome. I'm on board for all of this. The issue with all of this is, like, does the audience have an appetite for 2 Batman movies in 2027. Like, I'll go see 2 Batman movies in 2027. I'll tell you this. Part of the reason why I kind of fell off with reading comics was because there was a period in the 2010s where it was Batman everywhere. It was Batman everywhere. And if that's the case, I'm like, I'm good. I don't need this much Batman. And if 2027 is going to be 2 Batman movies, I don't know what else to say, really. Like, that seems like a lot. So if that's the case, and again, we're looking at 2031 as the end, you still have Swamp Thing, you still have The Authority, both of which are stalled. So, like, those could be the 2028 movies, but what's the crossover going to be? You have Superman, Supergirl, Batman, the DCU Batman, and Clayface. So I think, and then you have Swamp Thing and The Authority. So is that gonna be the team up movie? Like, okay, maybe, but like, I guess, like, and then what are the movies in 2028 and 2020 or 2029, 2030, leading up to this crossover? Because I think the crossover probably ends off the year. I would say the crossover probably takes, the November 2031 slot, the same way that, like, Justice League was a November release. It came out mid-November. The slot that Lionsgate kind of lives in now, the week before Thanksgiving. Where it's like, this year is Now You Three Me, and then next year is Sunrise on the Reaping, the new Hunger Games movie. And that is the interesting question here. Like, what do they do there? Now, is that long enough to get the stench of failure off The Flash from that movie? Like, that's a solid question. Could we get a legitimate Flash movie? And if that's the case, like, could it be who do you cast? It's going to be a no-name. I'm not going to be able to tell you right now who they're going to cast. And then, like, if that's the case, and then also, let's not forget, there's also going to be a crossover to TV shows, allegedly. If that's the case, I don't know if that's the best move, because we've seen this issue happen before. Like, we're watching this in real time with Marvel, where it's like, the idea of, crossing over these TV shows is cool for the people like me who watch everything, but I don't speak for the general audience. I don't speak for the average everyday person who's like, oh yeah, I'll jump in for the Batman movie and all that. And if you look at, like, the biggest successes for Marvel, Infinity War and Endgame, these are movies that are designed, and if you listen to the commentary track, you'll hear them talk about it. These are movies that are designed where it's like someone who has not seen any of the movies, or has only seen the Avengers movies, or has only seen the Iron Man movies, or has only seen the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, could jump in and see this movie without needing to have seen everything else. And that's, when you watch the movies, you can see that there's not a single frame wasted. Everything about these movies is designed to onboard anyone who may not know 100% what is going on. So the question that I have is, like, what's going on with this? Like, are we going to expect they're going to be crossover with Paradise Lost? Are we expecting there's going to be crossover with what's the other one? With Lanterns? I would assume the Lanterns are showing up. Like, and then it's like, is the entire Justice Society from Superman showing up? Like, we're looking at a big fucking movie. And then if these characters don't get interspersed elsewhere, by the time we get there 6 years down the line, are people like, was she Hawkgirl the first time, or is she new? Like, did they recast that? Oh, well, who is this? And it's a weird thing. I don't know. It's all a weird situation. Apparently, they did have a conversation about bringing in, Grant Gustin to play the Flash, but it didn't go anywhere. I think that could be an interesting thing. Like, if they did years down the line with the Flash family, and it was just like, oh, and here's the Flash, like, that would be, like, there are elements from the Arrowverse you can carry over. Like, I think that would be smart. I think there's a non-zero chance Stephen Amell shows up at some point. Like, and I think, too, it's like, I think there's a non-zero chance that, like, what's it called? Oh, fuck, it's going to be closed from the 20th to the 3rd? Alright, that should be a problem. There's a non-zero chance that Grant shows up. If that's what's happening with these characters, then, like, eventually we're going to get to a multiverse movie. Because, especially if Secret Wars does well, eventually we're going to get to a multiverse movie, and that's going to make them a lot of money. And it's like how Deadpool made a lot of money for Marvel last year, and how, you know, The Flash, despite its faults, made not a not unsubstantial amount of money. It made back its budget. It didn't do the gangbusters they were hoping for, but it did enough to make back its budget. I think it was the most successful movie they released in the waning days of the DCEU. So it's just kind of a situation where you're like, well, what are we doing? And I think that, like, because don't forget they also have the Bane and Deathstroke movie. They have Sergeant Rock, so that could be 1 year. But, like, I think you need to be a little bit smarter with your release cadence. I think you can take these risks, but you can't do an entire year. You can't do 2 movies in 1 year that are risk movies. You can't do 2 movies in 1 year that are both, this is something that, you know, may not get the audience we're hoping for. Like, this is going to be an expensive, you know, experiment. Like, you can't do 2 of those in 1 year. Because if both of them bomb, then where are you? And that's kind of where I fear they are headed. Like, ideally you would space out the Batman and Brave and the Bold. Ideally, you would space them out away from Dynamic Duo, which, despite being a kids' movie, is still going to be Batman adjacent. So you're going to want to space all that stuff out. It's a conundrum that you have. It's a tightrope they have to walk. Because, like, I would not put the Authority. I mean, look, Gunn has made weird teams work before. But I would not put the Authority out the same year as Swamp Thing, because Swamp Thing, I don't think, has exactly a proven track record of working. It wasn't a ratings driver for DC Universe like they were hoping it would be. It wasn't a ratings driver for CW when they re-aired it during COVID. It wasn't like, oh, well, now Swamp Thing's here, let me go watch it now. It didn't exactly do, you know, tremendous numbers there. So, what is the actual game plan here? Like, what movie is going to be your number 1 slot? What movie, like, I wouldn't put them against each other, is what I'm saying. And especially when you're hearing, like, early on, we're having a hard time cracking the script of The Authority. Like, that's cumbersome. Like, that's problematic if you're having trouble cracking the script right now. And I think it's too. It could just be they want to separate it from The Boys. They want it because, like, The Boys is ending. I think isn't The Boys ending with the next season? I could see them wanting to give a little runway to The Boys and then be like, okay, it's been a few years. Now we can do our version of that. Okay, sure, maybe that's what they're trying to do. Who knows? But we'll see. I'm excited for a lot of these things, despite what I'm saying, and a lot of the things that I'm articulating are kind of back-end things and things that aren't really our concern. It is our concern from a standpoint of we want this to continue for a while. And you know what? No studio is going to be perfect forever. Even if Superman comes out and it's great, even if Supergirl comes out and it's great, even if Clayface comes out and it's great, eventually it's going to be a flop. And the issue is spacing out the flops so you don't get consecutive ones. That's where you get the issues that Marvel's in right now. That's where you get the issues that DC had under first Snyder and then Hamada. Like, space out the flops so that way we're not just constantly drowning in bad movies. But we'll wrap up there for today. Our next episode will be next week when we talk about the Oscar winners, because I made my predictions and I'm fairly certain I'm going to be wrong about a lot of them. But until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.